In the 1980s, Mel Gibson's name became synonymous with Hollywood greatness. Born in 1956 in Peekskill, New York, and raised in Australia, Gibson carried a blend of American ambition and Australian grit. He first captured the world's attention with Mad Max, a low-budget Australian film that turned into a global phenomenon. Gibson's portrayal of the post-apocalyptic anti-hero catapulted him to fame, creating a cult following. As the 1980s unfolded, Gibson solidified his place as one of Hollywood's most versatile actors. With memorable performances in Gallipoli, The Year of Living Dangerously, and Lethal Weapon, Gibson showed his range, playing everything from war heroes to action-packed thrillers to romantic leads. His rise wasn't just about skill, but his intense presence, both on screen and in real life. Fans adored his vulnerability, and he seemed destined for a life of stardom, adulation, and creative freedom. Braveheart and cinematic coronation. After years of proving his range, Mel Gibson reached the pinnacle of his career with Braveheart. Not only did he star in the epic historical drama, but he also directed it, something few actors had successfully done at the time. The film, which tells the story of William Wallace's fight for Scottish independence, became a massive success, winning 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. It was more than a career achievement. It was a testament to Gibson's extraordinary dedication and visionary talent. But the toll of such a massive project also reflected something deeper within Gibson. The long hours of filming, the physical and emotional strain of portraying a character torn apart by war and betrayal mirrored his own internal struggles. Behind the accolades and the success, Gibson was wrestling with personal demons, but the world saw only the cinematic triumph. Icon Productions' power and pressure. Following the success of Braveheart, Gibson seemed unstoppable. He founded Icon Productions, a film company designed to give him more creative control and avoid the politics of Hollywood's studio system. With this newfound power came both opportunities and challenges. As an independent filmmaker, Gibson no longer had the same constraints, but the pressure was immense. He was now responsible for not only his own career, but also for the creative direction of multiple projects. In 2004, he released The Passion of the Christ, a deeply personal religious film that shattered box office records. While it divided audiences, some hailed it as a profound spiritual journey while others criticized it. Gibson remained firmly at the center of the conversation. The film made him a polarizing figure, but it also cemented his legacy as a daring filmmaker willing to tackle challenging, controversial topics. The unraveling begins. As the years passed, Mel Gibson began to show signs of unraveling. The man who had once been Hollywood's golden child was slowly becoming a figure of controversy and scandal. Behind the scenes, Gibson struggled with alcoholism, an issue that had plagued him for years. While the public adored him for his passionate roles and commanding presence, few knew about the personal battles he was fighting. His outbursts, erratic behavior, and increasingly volatile public persona became harder to ignore. Yet, for years, the industry and his fans continued to overlook these signs. They were willing to forgive his flaws because of the immense talent and brilliance he brought to the screen. But in 2006, the public would get a rude awakening. The long road to redemption. Despite the fall, Mel Gibson never gave up. He continued working in the industry, albeit in a much quieter capacity. His career seemed relegated to low-budget films and supporting roles, but Gibson didn't disappear. In 2016, he made a dramatic return to directing with Hacksaw Ridge, a World War II film about a pacifist combat medic, Desmond Doss, who saved 75 men without firing a gun. The film was both a critical success and a personal victory for Gibson. It earned 6 Academy Award nominations and 2 wins, including Best Director. For many, it was a moment of redemption, a sign that Gibson still had the talent and brilliance that made him one of the greatest filmmakers of his generation. However, the applause was muted. Gibson's past actions loomed large, and while the film reminded the world of his cinematic genius, it couldn't erase the stains on his reputation. The lingering shadow, public and private struggles. While Hacksaw Ridge brought some public recognition back to Gibson, it did not erase the painful memories of his past. Behind closed doors, he continued to battle the same demons that had plagued him for decades. He was described by those who worked with him as focused, even gentle, but with a haunting sense of regret in his eyes. The intensity that had once brought his characters to life seemed to consume him, eating away at his spirit. In his later years, Gibson's personal struggle remained a constant presence. The man who had once reveled in the spotlight now seemed more comfortable in the shadows, far from the public eye that once adored him. Yet, even in this quieter phase of his life, there was an undeniable sense of longing for something more. Perhaps, above all, it was peace. The legacy of Mel Gibson, a complicated story. Mel Gibson's story is one of extraordinary highs and devastating lows. His legacy as an actor, director, and filmmaker is undeniable, but it is also a complicated one. For some, he will always be remembered as the brilliant director behind Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ. For others, he will forever be defined by the scandals that plagued his life, from the DUI to the recorded arguments. Redemption, as Mel Gibson has learned, is a long and often elusive process, particularly in an industry that demands perfection and punishes failure. Some will argue that he has been unfairly judged, while others will insist that he destroyed his own legacy. The truth lies somewhere in between. Gibson's fall wasn't just about one moment. It was the culmination of years of inner turmoil, addiction, and personal demons that went unchecked. But the most tragic part of his journey is that, even in his redemption, there is no full return to the man he once was. The human side of Mel Gibson. In the final years of his career, Mel Gibson has become a figure of quiet resilience. He continues to work in the industry, but his fame is no longer what it once was. Instead of leading blockbuster films or being at the center of Hollywood's attention, Gibson now works in the margins. He is no longer the loud, brash star of his earlier years, but a man still trying to reconcile his past with his present. The work he produces now is driven not by a desire for fame, but by a need for self-expression and survival. Behind his films, there is a man in search of redemption, not for the public, but for himself. And perhaps in this quieter chapter of his life, Mel Gibson has found something he never had before. Stillness. It is a stillness marked by sorrow, reflection, and the understanding that the man he once was is gone, but that doesn't mean he is without value or purpose.